Out of the many movies I have seen, none of them have lingered with me to the same extent as The Killing of a Sacred Deer. In this movie, Stephen, played by Colin Farrell, must make a life-altering decision about his family at the hands of a boy named Martin, played by Barry Keoghan. The movie is centered around guilt, revenge, and justice. Although this is one of my favorite movies, I do not just want to explain why I love this movie. Rather, I want to explore an idea or interpretation I've always had when I first viewed this movie that I can find no information about or similar interpretations. I'll just come right out and say it. This video will be analyzing the sub-narrative of child grooming in The Killing of a Sacred Deer. To analyze these points, we'll be identifying the common steps of child grooming, specifically in Martin and Stephen's relationship, and question why viewers initially look past this sub-narrative. However, before we get into anything, let's talk about interpretations. First, why should I make a video about child grooming in a movie that's not specifically highlighting grooming? Well, it's because I've recently seen too many films, TV shows, or even news coverage around the subject of grooming or child assault. It's horrible, and ever presenting in our media and society. By relating grooming specifically to The Killing of a Sacred Deer, we're taking relevant and recent media that I believe needs proper identification of grooming for audiences. But is this fair? Well, Yorgos Lanthimos, the director of The Killing of a Sacred Deer, has his own opinions on the subject.
I always think that, sometimes you're asked all these questions about something that you've constructed and created. People think that you know much more than what's, in the film or in something you've written, but basically it's, you might know even less because you do so many things instinctively and unconsciously, and maybe someone who has a certain kind of distance to that thing can observe more things than you can about yourself and about what it is that you're making.
But does this mean that it's okay to look into an interpretation too much?
But at the same time, I find that useful as well, because it does say things about you, about what you're looking for in the projections that you're making, and how you're affected by things that you know about certain things, and what you've read about, a filmmaker or a film or a book or whatever, and then you try and impose a lot of that into what you experience.
Overall, I believe it's fair to analyze Lanthimos' characters in The Killing of a Sacred Deer, because the evidence is present and the subject relates to our media and society on a larger level. So, let's take a look at Stephen and Martin's relationship and scrutinize the identifiers of child grooming. Number 1. Identifying and targeting a victim. While others pass Stephen's motivations as guilt, it is not unreasonable to say that Martin was extremely vulnerable after losing his father. This makes Martin an easier target for Stephen to infiltrate. Number 2. Gaining trust and access. It's clear that Stephen offers Martin a listening ear, which gains Martin's trust in the relationship. But there is one glaring step of grooming in these acts of trust: the gifts. It's all in the gifts. There are multiple moments where we see Martin has received a gift from Stephen. Additionally, Stephen has impeccable status as a surgeon in his rich society. This offers him more trust for Martin. Number 3. Playing a role in the child's life. As Martin's father's surgeon, Steve proves his credibility in understanding Martin's pain for the loss of his father. Stephen plays the role of Martin's dad for one scene, emphasizing the role of Martin's life and spending more alone time with him. Number 4. Isolating the child. This step is one of the lesser identifiable steps for Stephen and Martin's relationship. We know Martin has friends, and we know Stephen doesn't really care about Martin's friends. Number 5. Creating secrecy around the relationship. This is another glaring step into Stephen and Martin's relationship. Their relationship is almost completely secret, until Stephen finally displays Martin to his family. Stephen's wife didn't even attend Martin's funeral due to Stephen's secrecy of the relationship. Number 6. Initiating sexual contact. There's one scene where sexuality is implied in The Killing of the Sacred Deer. It's the hospital scene. In this scene, Martin and Stephen are removing their shirts and examining body hair. At first, this could be seen as an act of innocence, or identifying growth between a young man yearning to mature. However, we need to understand that this relationship is not natural, and this scene is highly inappropriate. it's too sensual, it's a secret, and it's voyeur. Number 7, controlling the relationship. Ultimately, this step comes out at the end of Stephen and Martin's relationship and controls the rest of the movie. Martin takes charge now, whereas Stephen had all the control before, because he was an adult making conscious decisions about their relationship. Now, we've identified the child grooming steps in Stephen and Martin's relationship and the killing of a sacred deer. But what does this all mean? What is the bigger picture here? Basically, when we ignore or dismiss these signs, we ultimately and unknowingly defend these actions, which become principle for predators to continue their behaviors. And despite the world and the atmosphere that the characters live in, we excuse all the actions, all the dialogues, and all the reactions because we believe that this world is supposed to be weird and different. However, if we really applied this to the real world, we can see that when we excuse weird dialogue, weird reactions, or weird characters, we're actually enabling behaviors of these predators. And interpretations can go a long way, especially for the actors. Colin Farrell and Barry Keoghan had to use all their acting material themselves, while Lanthimos gave them little pointers. It was up to them to identify this relationship between Stephen and Martin, and they did a fantastic job in this film. Big picture here is, don't miss these steps. If you see this in an inappropriate relationship between a child and an adult, it's time to step in. That is what I've been seeing in all these media shows and all these coverages. We need to stop this relationship.